Now, the row with France over post-Brexit fishing rights. Now, France is ratcheting up the pressure on the UK, once again threatening to cut off supplies to Jersey, energy supplies, I should say, to Jersey.
Absolutely. Well, Paris has been angered after a series of applications to fish in British waters were rejected. However, yesterday it emerged that Brussels has told French President Emmanuel Macron to back down over his country's threats.
Indeed. Well, to discuss this further, we are joined by Andy Reid, the editor of Fishing News. Thank you very much. Is it about time that Macron backed down and calmed down as well?
Well, we hope so. It should be pointed out that the UK as a whole has already licensed 1,600 European Union vessels to fish in British waters this year. 88 French vessels are already licensed to fish inside the UK 6 to 12 mile zone, and 90 vessels are licensed to fish in Jersey. The argument is about a number of small vessels that can't prove they've fished in UK waters previously. And that lack of proof means that the UK has turned down some of the applications that have been received. It's election time in France. Fishing has got a much more higher political priority in France than in the UK. The UK has its biggest single market for our exported fish is France, and I think the French are on the assumption they can bully us into a further submission.
Andy, you mentioned that it's election time in France. Is this just posturing from the French, but also from the British? Does it give British people a boost to look like we're in conflict in France with France in some way? Is this potentially posturing from both sides?
I think the posturing on the UK side is less. Fishing is just not important. Whatever was said during the Brexit negotiations, it doesn't ring the same bells as it does with the French politicians. And what we see in the Channel is French fishermen who see a huge volume of British imports into their markets, which affects obviously the prices they receive. So there's a lot more emotion there with the French fishermen and with the French electorate in the north. So I think that's highly important. And again, Jersey is almost entirely reliant on the market in France for all its catches, and has basically backed down already. The Jersey industry is in real difficulty now. It's seeing a huge increase in the number of French fishing boats in Jersey waters. Sorry.
Just going to quickly pick up on your point about Jersey. I mean, in a post-Brexit Britain, is this something now that we should be considering if France is potentially making threats and Jersey depends on France in many different ways, that we should be making sure that if this is going to happen, that we do have alternatives and perhaps making sure that Britain covers those potentialities?
I think Britain does. Jersey has a much weaker bargaining position when all its power comes from France and virtually all the fish it catches as a fleet is exported to France. So the bargaining position there is very, very weak. And I think this is largely why the Jersey industry feels betrayed and has basically seen a whole fleet of new vessels coming in to share its waters. Undoubtedly, jobs will go. We had new figures released yesterday by the government. 650 English fishing jobs were lost in the last 12 months, primarily in the English Channel. And I think we're going to see that continue. There's a 5-year phase-out over Brexit, and that gradually will see greater quota return to the UK. But we still need access to the foreign markets, and in particular the French market. And I can see this simmering whilst the French politicians make it so, but gradually we'll back down as the UK and we'll see these vessels fishing. It was worth pointing out that the argument now is about 35 vessels, 88 have already been licensed. I think France may back down, but the posturing will continue.
Some clarity then, just for some clarity. In your opinion, was the fishing industry better off while we were in the EU?
We at least then had the sort of collective responsibility, if you like, or a collective bargaining position where other EU countries who might be less unreasonable than the French could pull them into line. Now we're on the outside, and the Commission is less likely to to take a middle view. They're going to represent the French interests.
Did you vote for Brexit out of interest yourself?
The industry voted, the catching sector, probably 99.5% voted for Brexit.
Yeah.
The processing sector would have probably been 80% for Remain.
Oh,
so it's a very split industry.
Right.
Whereas the people with the markets wanted it. I would say there's a universal criticism of the settlement of the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, and that the promises that the industry expected have not been realised. This week, for instance, we saw Asda announce a promotion of Norwegian seafood, Norwegian cod and haddock, in UK supermarkets across the country. That Norwegian cod and haddock was previously caught by Scottish and English vessels. As a result of the Brexit settlement, we've lost access to that fish. The Norwegians have seen a market opportunity and are now marketing that same fish to the UK when we have vessels tied up unable to catch that fish.
Is there the potential, though, that we could still get this right? As an independent sovereign nation, if we decided to make different decisions now, if going forward we can make different decisions and we're maybe a bit smarter about the whole thing, we care more about the fishing industry. Actually, is there the potential that we could get this right?
Absolutely. This is a 5-year transition period at the moment. We are just going into negotiations now with the Northern European countries about shared fishing stocks, such as mackerel and herring, where we have our own bargaining position. We follow that up with a trilateral negotiations with Norway and the European Union on shared fish stocks, and then bilateral with the European Union. We very much have still much to play for, and we can still get some benefit from this. The 5-year transition period means that we do have opportunity every year to improve the situation, and we very much hope that the government will demonstrate the good faith that the industry put in them, and the particular promises made by Boris Johnson. And that said, that 90% or 95% of the catching sector voted in favour of Brexit. We'll see those promises honoured in the future, with strong bargaining position and a strong positive deal to come out of those 3 sets of negotiations that start on the 22nd of October.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Andy Reid, the editor of Fishing News. I think it's something going to continue to go on. I mean, Brexit isn't over. It's something that is going to continue to be a point in conversation. I don't think that when we just left the EU, that was all it. We still have to forge a post-Brexit Britain, and fishing has got to come in all of that.
Absolutely. Just hopefully we do manage to get it right, I think. And I think one of the big points there was care more, actually, a bit about that industry. I think once an industry or certain vast swathes of it have lent their trust to you, I think you do owe them. It was a big issue, wasn't it? It's all very well and good Boris Johnson putting a tie with a load of fish on it outside Downing Street when he's got this EU deal, but let's maybe just start putting more British fish in British shops. That might be a difference. But anyway.